Hello everybody and welcome to the PTB 2.6.0 Patch Notes. Today we'll be covering the new killer, perks, changes, and the such that will be coming to Dead by Daylight within the weeks to come. Before we begin, it's vital to remember that this is a PTB and it's not final. All numbers and changes can be altered in values or be reverted before entering the live update. So first we'll jump into the killer and survivor. If you missed the reveal of the killer power and perks of both new killers, then I'll link the video below that will cover them. Here I would like to cover them in detail and show off the killer Mori, so here's the Mori. The major part about this Mori is that it breaks one of the rules of lore that was established for the characters within the realm of the entity. This would be our first character to talk. Though some would say you can't understand what she says, you can also say that she comes from a time where the language is different, and she is likely speaking in a tongue that we don't know, but she is still speaking. Those are not mutterings and murmurs, that's a dead language. Either way, with this bit of information, it's just something that we can discuss another day. It's an interesting tidbit, and I thought you all should know. She's going to be the first to talk in Dead by Daylight. Who else is next? Now onto the killer power for the Plague. It works similar to the Huntress in terms of charging. In comparison to her windup, you could charge it and release it at any phase of the charge up. The difference in charge length, though, will make the difference in how long she spews the vial. The Plague is slowed while charging, but once it's full, she'll pick up back speed and you can release it at your whim. Sickness is a very simple mechanic. Essentially, you get sick, and once sick, you'll begin to build it up, and once it hits a 100% threshold, you will then be broken, and spread sickness to other things. To build it up, you must be sprinting, doing specific actions, or getting hit by more bile. To cure this, all you have to do is go to a fountain and drink from it. It will be revealed to you where the fountains are when you are sick. You will also be fully healed when drinking from a fountain, and it will cleanse you of broken and any ailment you have, but you do corrupt the fountain, which allows the Plague to take advantage. Drinking from a corrupt fountain will cause the Vile Purge to be changed to Corrupt Purge for a short duration. During this duration, the spew will now be red and only deal damage. It only afflicts survivors as well, so you can no longer infect objects. What this will do is allow you to use long-ranged attacks in order to deal damage and also hit multiple survivors. This can only hit a survivor once per purge, which means you can't hit the same survivor twice, but you can hit multiple survivors with one purge. And as it was once stated, you can quickly charge it and do a quick spit that will shoot a small stream and damage survivors. So where does the Plague stand in terms of strength? Well, Plague is strong. This is something I haven't said for a lot of killers in a long time, but the Plague is strong. Compared to Spirit, compared to Legion, the last two releases, the Plague is one that is hard to use, but very powerful. Essentially, she has one unintended effect, and Vile Purge seems to be that unintended effect. When you set a sickness to a survivor to maximum, they become broken, and you can do that in a single spew. You charge it up and you let it all out. With good aim, you can hit majority of it, which will cause a survivor to immediately enter broken status without taking any damage. This means they do not get their movement speed boost, and you are also not slowed down. You can immediately strike them and down them. Effectively, it's like a point-blank chainsaw, and that on Hillbilly is a very fantastic ability, the ability to be a threat point-blank. Of course, she doesn't compare to Hillbilly, he is stronger. But her Corrupt Purge is unintentionally weaker than her Vile Purge. Not completely weak, but a difficult ability to use. The projectile itself is a little slow, and the range is not that good. But you can do some pretty good work with it. She has the potential to have some very skillful plays. How you play that out is all up to you, and she's not very punishing on herself for making small mistakes. It'll take a little while to get used to swapping between Purge of Corrupt and Vile, but when you get it down, it can make all the difference. I think the Plague has a very good potential, and I can't wait to play her. Being that I have a full set of patch notes to cover, we need to move on and stop talking about the purge. I just wanted you all to really see the biggest important thing about the killer, which was her strength, and a lot of people were asking about that. So let's jump into the patch notes. Audio gets a couple of adjustments that decreases the distance where you can hear survivors while they're in lockers. They've also made it so that sounds coming from the basement would mostly be muted in most circumstances. The occlusion of multiple floors was also adjusted, including basement. What this all means is that the way we hear things, such as generators' footsteps and grunts and pains, will all be changed. So be ready to adjust to the differences, as the way we listen to the game now will be slightly different. Emblem changes are coming, and they're not looking pretty. Before I get into this, I need you all to know that this was something I could not test, as many people do not play in the PTB in normal matchmaking. Typically, people test through Kill Your Friends, just as I did, so unfortunately, you can't look at the emblems there. This means that what is here may change, or I may need some more clarification to understand it, so I also won't be getting too much into it other than telling you what they are. So killers in general got a heavy hit, as they've made it harder for them to pip. Chaser had its camping penalty increased. The longer you stay close, the more points you lose. This wasn't a very effective change the first time they implemented, and I'm happy that they're making this penalty actually make a difference, but I don't know by how much. Devout will now only give you a silver emblem with 3 kills, a gold emblem for 4 kills, and to gain Iridescent, you have to have 10 or more hook events and sacrifice all 4 survivors. This means that a disconnect might ruin you of an Iridescent score even if you kill the rest, unless they count the disconnect as a sacrifice and give you their hook event scores, but I'm not sure why they worded it like that. It's probably to prevent Moris from counting for it, but again, I'll get the confirmation on a later date. Gatekeeper got a different change as well. Instead of giving points for every second for each generator that is incomplete, now it's you get points per generator incomplete for the first 9 minutes of the game. After the 9 minutes are up, whatever generators remain will give you bonus points, and that emblem is then finished. Onto the gameplay changes. We have a change to the terror radius being scaled now on a vertical level. Assuming this is to help survivors know when killers are above or below, or not have them feel that they're on the same level in maps like the game. So when they're above you, the heartbeat will be less intense. Survivors entering lockers will now have blind, meaning that they can no longer use perks like Object of Obsession while masking their own aura. Perks based on stun effects, such as Decisive Strike and Head On, will now grant 500 blood points. Survivors can act faster with healing when canceling a heal because a survivor moved, allowing them to pick back up when a mistake is made. Killer perk changes are in. Barbecue and Chili now works at 40 meters at all levels. Distressing now rewards a 100% bonus at all levels. Fire Up got a 3% increase of efficiency. Devour Hope got a 5% speed boost with 2 tokens instead of its original 1 token effect. Ruin now affects all survivors at all levels, but applies a different percent of penalty at each level. Thrill of the Hunt now grants 10% bonus blood points at all levels. Monitor and Abuse affects the terror radius by 8 at all levels, and it had its FOV values revealed. Spies from the Shadows now has a 5-second cooldown, and Thanatophobia now increases in increments of their base value, reaching new maximums in penalty to injured survivors. There are a few map changes. There will be a line of sight check, which prevents totems from spawning 32 meters within a survivor spawn. There is a 48 meter distance minimum between chests, and a minimum number of pallets is now 8 globally. The minimum distance for pallets at Shelter Woods was also reduced. There have been some changes to the ranks. Pipping is now made more difficult at a higher rank. The value on screen now reflects how they are changed. Each color rank has their own pipping requirements, which will make it harder to get to and maintain the higher ranks without being consistent in your emblems. Good luck, killers. And finally, onto the Survivor perk changes. Decisive Strike had its rework implemented. If you wish to see that, please check the description down below for the video that completely covers the rework. Empathy was nerfed to have a limited range. Lithe now works anytime you fast vault instead of in chase only. Kindred shows all survivors at all ranks, but the killer's aura distance was changed on each level. Pharmacy had its audible effect applied at all ranks, and Wake Up reveals auras at 128 meters instead of at any distance. As per usual, I'll display the rest of the bug fixes for you to read. Please feel free to pause the video at any time. How do you all like the Plague? Have you had any luck with her powers, and have you tried experimenting with the new perks? Let me know your experiences down below. I'm going to be looking into some of the perks and cosmetics in the future, and we'll have the lore covered once the chapter releases. It'll be a couple of days of testing, and possibly a week before we see the killer, so remember that there's currently no confirmed date on the release, but we know it will be soon. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, good game.